Sup, fellow hobbyists and gamers? My name is Colby, or as I'm better known as on Twitch, Instagram, and here on YouTube, Serial Killer 02. And in today's video, I finish up my series on how to put the models together from the Warhammer Age of Sigmar WarCry 2-player starter box set. Try saying that 3 times fast. And so today's video took me a little bit longer to film because I wanted to spend some time and show how to put the terrain together, how it is in the book. And it doesn't show all of the terrain being put together in the book, so I went ahead and did everything that was in the book, and then they give you a couple of extra pieces that you can kind of play around with and put together how you want. So I'm going to leave that to you to do with the rest of the pieces that we will not be using. I also wanted to make this video because Waywalker Studios, they actually put out a blog that talked about the fact that some of the pieces that the book shows need to be glued together should not be glued together. If you glue them together, you won't be able to use all of the different cards that come in the terrain deck. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with that, feel free to check out my unboxing video. I explain everything in the box and try to explain what each piece is used for, and it will talk about the terrain deck in there. I will have a link set up to pop up on the screen for you if you haven't checked that out. And so with that being said, I'd like to say a special thanks to Waywalker Studios as well as Blackjack Legacy, because Blackjack also made a YouTube video on what to put together and what not to. And so I don't want to take any credit away from them. So thank you to both of those groups for making those videos and making that blog. I just do this stuff to try to help everybody out, and so I hope you like it. So that is enough rambling. Let's go ahead and take it down to the table and get started. And to put together the bell tower, it looks like we're going to need to start with grabbing A1, A2, A7, A8, and then we're also going to need A3, 12, and 13. Let's go ahead and take a look at where all these pieces are on the sprue. Starting off right here down in the bottom left, we have A1, and you're going to want to be careful when you're cutting this out because right up here there's a skeleton. That skeleton is not part of it. And same with these 2 pieces of wood right down here, so you're going to want to cut around those and around this. And so whenever you're cutting that, be careful. So there's A1. Right up here in the top right is A2. Just below that is going to be A3. Then the rest of the bell right here is A7. And then up here in the top left, this small little piece right here is going to be A8. The last 2 pieces we're going to need right now are these 2. A12 and 13. So be careful when you're cutting all these pieces off and make sure you don't cut anything off that you don't need just yet. And one more thing I want to show you on this is on A7 you will see that there is a small little hook on the top of that bell. Do not cut that off. Make sure you cut just above that. That way you don't mess the piece up, but just be really careful when you're cutting these out, just because there are some smaller pieces to some of these sprues, and so you don't want to cut anything that is going to cut off a piece of the terrain. And with the terrain, there's going to be a lot of mold lines. As you can see right here, it comes all the way down the side and it leaves little pieces from where the sprue was connected. So this is where your mold line remover really comes in handy. So just go ahead and start cleaning up the mold lines and get all of this off of the terrain pieces, and then we will put it all together. The first 2 pieces we're going to put together are going to be A1 and A2, and that's going to be the big tower that is right here, and then the piece right here that I have to the left of it. So you're going to get this, and then you're going to put it right over here and connect it at the bottom. You will dry fit it together, and then we can go ahead and glue it. And the way I'm gluing it together, I'm putting it just around the edge here because the 2 pieces should fit together pretty well, and they're going to go together in that spot, so that should hold them together just like that. So go ahead and hold that and let it dry, and then we will move on to the next piece. Now that that piece is glued together, go ahead and take piece A3, which is going to be on the other side. You're going to dry fit that as well. And once you have that where it is supposed to go ahead and glue that together as well. And with those pieces put on there, now we can go ahead and do the bell. So you take the bell piece, and if you can see right in there, there is a little groove. So the top of the bell actually, or the hammer actually shows that it slides down in there just like that. So go ahead and glue that together, and then we can put the bell on. And once the hammer is dried in to the bell, you can go ahead and put the bell together. So you will turn over the piece we've been working on and dry fit it, put the grooves together on it, and it should fit just like that. So go ahead and glue that together, and then we will move on. So with that part done, now we can go ahead and put the skeletons in their place. And with these, they will just fit right down in there. And so as you can see, they just kind of slide down into that spot. So you want to glue them right here on their shoulders, right in the groove, and then right here on the other shoulder blade. And so if you can put it in, if you can glue them in those spots and then kind of set it right there, you should be perfectly fine, and it should stay in place. So let's go ahead and glue those in, and then we will see what we need to take off the sprues next. And there we have it. There are the skeletons put onto the model. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the book again and see what pieces we're going to need next. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the book again and see what pieces we are going to need. Looks like from the book we are going to need A5, A9, and A10 for the next part. And let's go ahead and look at the sprue real quick. All of the pieces are down at the bottom right here. So you've got A5, which is right here, and then those two pieces that we cut around a minute ago, those are going to be A9 and A10. So go ahead and cut those off the sprues, and I will show you how to put those onto the model. And once you have those three pieces cleaned up, let's go ahead and take a look at how they go on here. These are going to fit on here just a little bit differently. It's kind of hard to see, but you're going to see little grooves right here just above the bell tower, and they're different types of grooves. So if you look at the small pieces of wood, I know it's hard to see, but each piece of wood has a different groove on it. So that shows you that these two pieces are going to go on a different side. So go ahead and match those two sides, and we will glue those together. Now that you've got those two pieces glued on, it should look a little bit like that. So you're going to keep those on there, then grab this other piece, and as you can tell, it is just going to slide right under the bell, and glue is going to go just on the bottom, right through here, and then you can put a little bit over here and over here as well. So go ahead and glue that down, and we will move on. And now with all that glued together, you can tell that it is all really starting to come together. So now let's go ahead and look at the book again and see what pieces we're going to need next. Now as you can tell, this part is going to take quite a few pieces. We are going to need A11, A12, A13, and A4. So let's go ahead and take a look at those real quick and see where they are on the sprues. And looking at the sprue right up here, we have A11, and then A12 and 13 are going to be the two skeletons that are right here. Not the ones in the cages, those are going to come up here in just a minute. And then the last piece we're going to need right now is A4, and that is this one right here. So you're going to want this piece, then this one, and then the skeleton down here. So go ahead and cut those off, clean them up, and we will put them on the model. And with those four pieces cut, we can go ahead and start putting them together. So right here, you are going to grab A11. If you sit this up, you will be able to see that it is going to fit down just like that. Now this piece does have a couple of hooks on it, and you want to make sure those are coming out over this other balcony area. And I will show you why here in just a minute. But once you have that set, go ahead and glue it down. And once you have that glued in, go ahead and we will put the skeletons in here just like we did on the other side. So go ahead and glue those in, and we will move on. With the skeletons put on, we can go ahead and grab A4, and this will slide right where these two boards are coming out under this balcony or stepping area, whatever you want to call that. So just go ahead and glue that together right there, and then we will move on to the next step. And once that's glued on, there's only one more step to go, and it just has a few pieces to it. And this is actually one of the steps that you do not want to glue something onto this. So I will show you in the book which one you do not want to glue on and the ones that you do. So let's go ahead and take a look at the book. Okay, so as you can tell in the picture, it shows you need A14, 15, 16, and A6. As you can tell in the picture, I marked out A6. You're going to want to cut that off the sprue, but do not, I repeat, do not glue that piece to the terrain. You will use that on another piece of terrain as well, depending on the cards that you pull for the scenery. So do not glue A6 to the model. So let's go ahead and get the pieces off the sprues, and we will put the pieces together that need to go on this piece of terrain. So looking at the sprue, as you can tell, there are only 4 pieces left, so we're going to cut all 4 of these off. Now this bigger ladder right here is the piece you will not be gluing to the piece of terrain. So do not glue this piece to the terrain. And I will say it again when we get to that part, but do not glue this to the terrain. So you're going to cut this one, and these two, and then we will start putting the pieces together that need to go on the terrain. And now with that done, let's go ahead and we will put the ladder on first. And with this ladder, you can see that one side has kind of broken wood pieces, and the other side is flat. You're going to want to put the flat side down on the bottom, and it will just kind of sit like that. So you just go ahead and glue that in there once you have it where you want it, and then we will move on to the last step. Once you have the ladder on there, the last 2 pieces we're going to put on are going to be the skeletons in the cages, and these are just going to fit on the side here. So all you're going to do is just put those on the side, and you're going to have the skeletons facing this way, so facing towards the standing area. So go ahead and glue those down, and then this piece will be done. And now with those pieces glued on, this is now done. This is the piece you do not want to glue on. Do not glue A6. It goes right in there, and it just fits in there, so you don't even need to glue it down. But please do not glue that in. You will use this ladder for another terrain piece. So that is now done. We have finished this piece, so let's go ahead and look in the book and see what the next terrain piece is that we are going to be putting together. And the next piece we are going to do is we're going to need D5, D1, and D6. So let's go ahead and take a look at the sprue and find where those are and cut those out. And the 3 pieces we're going to need for this are going to be right here. This is D1. Then here is D6, and then right up here at the top is going to be D5. So let's go ahead and cut those out and clean them up, and we can put them together. Now once you have all those cleaned up, let's go ahead and put it together. On this model, the skulls are going to face the outside, and each piece will only fit on one side. So whenever you put it together, it should fit pretty snug and nice and tight there. So just go ahead and glue those spikes to the piece of wood, and we will move on. Once you have that side put on, go ahead and work on the other side, and again, it should fit in there pretty easily. And once you have it fit to where it's supposed to go, go ahead and glue it together. And once you have that together, that piece is starting to come together. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next pieces that we are going to need to put this all together. Looking back at the book, we can see that the next pieces we're going to need are D7, D2, D3, and D4. Now D4, just like the last ladder, you are not going to glue on to the model. So let's go ahead and glue the pieces on that we are going to need, which are going to be D2, D3, and D7. and then go ahead if you want to and cut off D4, but do not glue it to the model. Let's go ahead and take a look real quick at where these pieces are on the sprue. So right up here in the corner is D4, and this is the piece you will not be gluing to the model. Then right here you have got D3. Over on the other side of the faces you have D2, and then the other piece that we are going to be gluing is D7. So let's go ahead and cut these 3 out and we can get them glued on there. And with those pieces cleaned up, you are going to do D3 and D2. So what you do with these is you will see little grooves right here. They just go into the little pieces right here, and then this smaller board will just fit like that. So go ahead and glue each side on, and we will move on to the next step. Give me 2 seconds and I'll be in there. With those 2 pieces glued on, we can now put D7 on. So this piece is going to just kind of sit on top, just like and now with those pieces put on there, we can go ahead and do D7. So go ahead, and D7 will just kind of sit on there just like that. And once you have those 2 pieces glued on, go ahead and do D7, and D7 will sit on top of these pieces just like that, and then the base will fit down on the bottom of the balcony. So go ahead and glue those pieces together, and then we can move on to the next step, since we are not gluing the stairs on. And with that done, we can go ahead and move on to the next step, but I will show you that the stairs will just sit in there like that. So there is no reason to glue these on, and do not glue on the stairs, which are D4. Do not glue them to this piece. So let's go ahead and move on to the next step. And then in this next step, as you can tell, we are going to be putting the stone head together. And this is going to be the base for the piece that we just created. And so what we're going to need is D9, D8, D10, D11, and D12. So let's go ahead and cut those off, clean them up, and we will take a look at what to do. So here's the sprue. As you can tell, the rest of the sprue that had everything to this that we just built without putting the stairs on is right here from this sprue, and then the rest of the pieces that are on the sprue are what we are going to use for the head. So let's go ahead and snip those off and clean them up, and we will put it together. Now with all the pieces cleaned up, let's go ahead and take the 2 head pieces, and as you can tell, these will fit together to where this fits inside of the other one. So if you're looking at it face on, I guess you could say, the left side will fit under the right piece. So go ahead and put glue all the way around this where it meets, and then we will put it together. Once that piece is dried, we can go ahead and dry fit the face. So you want to go ahead and make sure you can get the face to pop in there. And once it is flush and looks good, go ahead and glue it in. Now with the face glued on there, we are going to get the little medallion that goes at the top of the forehead. Just dry fit it in there, make sure it is where it's supposed to go, and glue it down. Once you have that medallion put in there, now you're going to take this pillar piece, and if you can see right here on the cheek and the ear, and also all these little grooves right here, this is going to fit right in that spot. And so the face is kind of just laying on that, the cheek of the face is laying on the pillar. So let's go ahead and glue that together. And with that, the piece is done. And so again, this is another piece that they tell you to glue together. As you can tell, they have some grooves in here for this to sit on here, and you're supposed to glue it together. Do not glue it together. As you can tell, it will still fit in there perfectly fine, and it stands perfectly fine by itself. So do not glue these two pieces together. That way you can use these in the way that you're supposed to and be able to play on every, or use every terrain card that is within the game. So with that being done, and you do not glue that piece or these stairs to it, all three of these pieces should be separate. So once you have got these three pieces done, go ahead and set them aside, and we will move on to the next terrain pieces. So each of these pieces won't take too long to put together. The first pieces we're going to need are E3, E4, and E5. So let's go ahead and take a look at the sprue. Right here you are going to find E3. Then up here just above these two big wood pieces, you are going to find E4. And then right here in the far left-hand corner, you are going to find the small skull, which is going to be E5. So go ahead and cut those off, and we will put them together. And with those pieces all cleaned up, first you're going to take the skeleton, and right here on the center, you will see how there is a smooth area. You are going to put the skeleton just right there, just dry fit it, and then glue that onto the spike. Once you have the body put on, you can go ahead and put the little skull right there on the top of the bones. So go ahead and put that on, and then we will move on to the next one. And now that we have that piece done, let's go ahead and look at the next one. And so it looks like we're going to need pieces E10, 11, and 12. So let's go ahead, take a look at the sprue, and then we will put it together. And now looking back at the sprue, we will find E10 right here. E11 is going to be down here on the bottom left, and then E12 is going to be right over here on the right hand side at the bottom. So let's go ahead and cut those out and clean them up, and we can put it together. And with those three pieces cleaned up, we can go ahead and start putting it together. Go ahead and take the little skeleton piece, and as you can tell, the head is already on the spike, so that will just slide right in there. So go ahead and glue it together. And with the skeleton glued on there, we will take the next piece, and as you can tell, these two pieces just slide together and fit just like that. So go ahead and put glue on those pieces, and we will put them together. And there it is with the glue on that piece. It is now ready. So it just sits up by itself. And so let's move on and see what skeletons we need to put on the last pieces. And this last piece we're going to work with is going to be the spikes that are E6, and then the two skeletons E7 and E8. And to take a look real quick, we will find that E6 is going to be right here in the corner. And then we also have E7 and E8 right here. So let's go ahead and cut those off. And then once you cut those, all of the rest of these pieces can just be cut off and trimmed. there is nothing that needs to be added to those. So let's go ahead and cut off E6, E7, and E8. Once you have those 3 pieces cleaned up, what you are going to want to do is put the skeleton heads, one facing to the right and one facing to the left. They're going to face away from each other. So the one that's facing to the right will be on the right hand side, and the one on the left is going to be on the left hand side. So go ahead and glue those 2 pieces on, and we will move on to the buildings. And with those done, we can go ahead and move on to the buildings. Like I said, the other pieces of terrain, those all are separate pieces, so go ahead and just cut those off and clean them up. And that is all that you have to do to those. So let's go ahead and take a look at the last set of terrain that we're going to have to put together. And with that, we are ready to put the buildings together. Now this is going to be tricky, and this says at the top to mix and match parts to create ruins as desired. So what I'm going to do to show you how to put these together is I'm going to put all of them together how they are in the book, and then from there, any extras you can go ahead and do what you want to with them. And to start with, let's go ahead and look at the pieces from the sprue that is B. So we're going to need the big wall, which is B1. We're also going to need this smaller wall, which is going to be B2. And then we also need this really small piece right here, which is B5. So let's go ahead and cut those pieces off, and then we will see what pieces we need. Then also from the C sprue, we are going to need C1, as well as C2. And then we're also going to need C5. And the last one we're going to need is C6. So let's go ahead and get those, and we can clean them up, and we will be able to start putting it together. And with all of those pieces done, we can go ahead and start putting it together. So let's go ahead and start with the big piece here. This is going to be B1. Go ahead and get this pillar piece that was next to it and slide that in and glue it together. And with that piece done, go ahead and grab B2, and you are going to turn it around, and it will fit right there onto this piece. So let's go ahead and put that together. And with that piece glued on, we can go ahead and move on to this piece, which is going to be C1. And that is going to go on the other side. So go ahead and just glue that in, and we will move on. And with that piece glued on, we can go ahead and move on to the next piece, which is going to be C5. And C5 will fit just straight in to that slot on the wall of B1. So go ahead and glue that in. Once that is glued on, we can go ahead and grab C2, fit it, and go ahead and glue that. And once that piece is glued on, the last piece that is going to go with this wall is going to be C4. And as you can tell, it will slide in to the spot right there, just like the other pieces did. So go ahead and glue that down. And with that wall done, there are a few pieces we are going to need from the other B section. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. And the other B piece we're going to need, it's going to be B1 again. And then we are also going to want B3. Then we are also going to need this piece right over here in the corner, and that piece is going to be B4. And then we're going to also need this B5. And so let's go ahead and get those, and we will get the other piece off of C that we need as well. And with all of those pieces cut, let's go ahead and grab this piece right here, which is going to be B3 and B1, and go ahead and fit those together and glue it. Once you have those two pieces together, you can go ahead and grab C4 and glue that to this side. Once you have that glued on, go ahead and grab the small pillar, and this is going to go right in front here on the side that has the small wall. So go ahead and just glue down in that groove and put the piece on. And once you have that piece put on, it is time to put the last piece on, so you will just do the same thing and fit it down in that groove. And with those two pieces of terrain done, we can go ahead and move on to the last page of the book. And as you can see on the last page of the terrain, it shows the big wall that we put together and shows that you are supposed to put a couple of roof pieces onto it, and that is going to be B6 and B7. So let's go ahead and put those on the roof, and then we also have a couple of small pieces of terrain that we need to put together. So let's go ahead and do that. Just to show you where they are on the B sprue, it's going to be right here and right here. So this is going to be B6 and B7. So let's go ahead and cut those off, clean them up, and we will put them onto the terrain. Once you have those two pieces cut and cleaned up, you will put the long piece to where it is coming to the end of the columns on the far left hand side of the big piece, and you will get that even and go ahead and glue it down. With that piece glued down, you are going to get the other small piece that you just cut off and level that where you want it and go ahead and glue it on. And there we have it. With that, the last big piece of terrain is done. So now let's go ahead and put together these few small pieces that we have, and I will show you on the sprues where those are. And there we have it. With that, the last big piece of terrain is done. So now let's go ahead and put together these few small pieces that we have, and I will show you on the sprues where those are. And to start, let's look at one of the C sprues. You're going to see here there's C9 and C10. Those two will go together, so you can go ahead and cut those off. And once you have those two pieces cut and cleaned, it is pretty self-explanatory, but you're going to take this small little piece here and just fit it to the other piece and glue it together. And with that done, you can go ahead and cut the same pieces off of the other C sprue and go ahead and glue those together too. And since we're already taking a look at sprue C, right here C8 is its own piece. So just cut that off of both of the C sprues and you don't have to glue anything together. They are ready to go. And the last piece of terrain that is actually in the book, so the last thing that I'm going to show you is how to put together the little, I guess you could call it fountain, which is going to be B8, B9, and B10. So go ahead and cut those out and clean them up, and we will. Once you get those three pieces cut off, you're going to take this pillar and you will see a line in the bottom of it and then a groove in the center of the bigger piece. So go ahead and line those up and it should fit in there just like that. So go ahead and glue it down. And then after that, go ahead and get the eagle head and make sure it is facing towards the fountain, and it will just slide down in there just like that. And that is it. All of the models are put together from the WarCry 2-player starter set box. And so I really hope this video helped you with the terrain and seeing what pieces you needed to glue together and what pieces you didn't. Again, a special thank you to Waywalker Studios as well as Blackjack Legacy for their contributions to help the community as well and let everybody know what pieces to put together and what pieces not to. And so, yeah, just like always, I will have links to all of the tools I used in this video in the description below. That way, if you need to pick anything up, all you have to do is hit that link and you will be taken to that page on Amazon. And so with that, I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you liked it, let me know in the comments below. If you didn't like it, let me know in the comments below and let me know what I can do differently. And so with that being said, thank you so much for checking this out. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.